Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, and I very much appreciate your courtesy in allowing me to participate in this. General Bolden, I'm a businessman.
Yes, sir.
If I were sitting on the board of directors and you were making this pitch to the board of directors as to the direction in which you're going to take the company, I would tell you haven't made the sale. And let me give you 4 areas where I think you have failed to make the sale. By the way, Madam Chairman, I have a formal statement, would appreciate it put in the record. The 4 areas that I think you haven't made the sale are, number 1, the science, number 2, protecting the industrial base, number 3, the money, and number 4, the law. And let me run through those very quickly, and then you can respond to them as you will. You made a statement just now that I find incredible when you say the demonstrated reliability of Ares is 0. Now, you've probably seen this, but let me show it to you. Time magazine just 6 months ago, in November of 2009, published the 50 best inventions of the year. And number 1 of the 50 is Ares. The best invention of the year. Doesn't sound like shabby science to me. Doesn't sound like something that's obsolete. And they say you can contradict this. They talk about this, I'm quoting from Time. In 2004, the U.S. committed itself to sending astronauts back to the moon and later to Mars, and for that, you need something new and nifty for them to fly. The answer is the Ares 1, which had its first unmanned flight on October 28 and dazzled even the skeptics. That doesn't sound like there's no demonstration of reliability. I think there's a definition problem here. None of the other things you talked about can match the tested perfection of Ares with the test that has already been done. So I challenge that one. Number 2, the industrial base. You said the President will make a decision as to what will be done by 2015. If you kill the industrial base of solid rocket motors now with this action, in 2015 you cannot get it back. This is not like saying, well, we're going to stop buying this kind of car and we'll look at buying another kind of car or pickup truck or SUV 4 or 5 years from now, and there is an industrial base that will have those kinds of cars or trucks available to us. This is the only game in town. And you shut down the industrial base of rockets, solid rocket motors, and there will be no contractors available in 2015 if you make the decision that's the way you want to go. And I think that is a very significant issue you have to address. Now, money. Number 3. You have not made the case that this is going to save money. And let me point out 2 particular things with respect to money. On the Senator Shelby's referred to this already. The fiscal 11 budget includes $2.5 billion in Constellation contract termination costs, $6 billion for new commercial providers, whom we don't really know who they are, who will suffer the normal cost and schedule growth that's been referred to in the opening statements already with their level of inexperience, an additional $312 million for COTS money that was never planned. So you got the $2.5 billion, you've got the uncertainty of where you're going, and it seems to me a much more responsible use of taxpayer dollars be to use the combined $8.8 billion that is represented in your budget to finish the program that has had 5 years' worth of progress and accomplishments and is designed to deliver a safer and more reliable way to send our astronauts to orbit than something that we are just guessing about. I think the prudent financial circumstance is to stay with what we've got instead of plunging into the unknown. And looking at construction costs, I'd like you to address what I find a significant gap in your money calculations. You stated in congressional testimony that the Ares program to fly would cost approximately $4 billion a year. Doug Cook, the Associate Administrator for Exploration Systems and Missions, recently stated in testimony that the recurring cost for Ares is $140 million per flight. You got to have a lot of flights at $140 million to get to the $4 billion per year. And I find that a disturbing kind of thing that I think you need to explain. Finally, the law. This committee, Congress, in the fiscal 2010 Omnibus Appropriations Bill, expressly prohibited using any 2010 funds to terminate or in any way change or modify the Constellation program. Just yesterday, ATK received a notice that funds for their contract under the Launch Abort system will be limited and no additional funds will be forthcoming after April 30th, 2010. That's a week away. It seems to me this is a clear violation of the law that says no funds will be used in any way to change or modify the program for fiscal 2010. Fiscal 2010 has not run out yet. So, to summarize what I said in the beginning, I think your conclusion on science runs afoul of the experience of what we have found with the testing of Ares. I think the threat to the industrial base casts doubt upon your ability to do something in 2015 if the President decides, or whatever President it is, decides they want to go back to solid rocket motors. They won't be able to. I think your numbers on the money don't add up. And I think what is being done right now is a countervention of the law. So I'd very much appreciate your reaction to those 4 points.
Thank you, Senator. I'll try to go down the line. The first thing is the science. And with all due respect, we are very proud of having been recognized for the #1 invention of the year by a number of different authoritative publications and the like. Perhaps we were not very good in explaining to people that Ares 1X is not Ares. Ares 1X was a 4-segmented rocket that had a dummy fifth segment, and a dummy interstage and a dummy nose cap. The Ares 1 vehicle is a 5-segmented solid rocket motor that has never flown. So we are very proud of Ares 1X and its recognition for what it did, because it gave us 700 pieces of data from sensors that were put on the vehicle. And I always told people it was the greatest wind tunnel test conducted by humans ever. But that was not an Ares 1. That was an Ares 1X, an experimental rocket that we wanted to do a number of things just to demonstrate that the shape and form would work. So the science
doesn't
in the interest of time, we're not going to have a debate.
Yes,
and if you could also, we appreciate the extensive data that you could, but if you could answer the question, because there are several other members, and I'd like to keep a well-paced hearing.
The money, there's a big difference between the per-flight cost and recurring costs. Most of the recurring costs from shuttle and from Constellation would come from just maintaining the infrastructure. So that's the reason that the money difference is. The law, we have not terminated any contracts. We have not directed anyone to stop work on anything. And if you were talking about the launch abort system test, that is still scheduled for May. If I may be misunderstanding your comment, but the launch abort system test is still scheduled for, I think, May the 5th. And we're very much looking forward to seeing that, because, again, we'll get a lot of data from that test. And then the industrial base, unfortunately, the solid rocket industry has been capitalized for many years. It was far overcapitalized for shuttle, because we said we were going to fly 100 missions a year, or 50 missions a year, and that's what it was set up to service. We ended up flying 8 missions a year. It would have been overcapitalized. It was overcapitalized for shuttle. It would have been grossly overcapitalized for Constellation. And so the business decision that, since you're a businessman, sir, the business decision that needs to be made by the only company that's legitimately in that industry right now is, how do I downsize if they want to be competitive? There is a big difference between what NASA uses in solid rocket motors. We use large segmented solid rocket motors. Since the cancellation of the Titan program, There is no other use for that type of solid rocket motor. So we are carrying 70% of the industry for a capability that nobody uses but NASA. I am concerned about the industrial base, and we're doing everything we can to work with our counterparts in DOD, to work with ATK, to help them in any way we can, because we still need solid rocket motors.
Administrator Bolden, we need really shorter.
Those are the 4 points.
I need good answers,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
so does Bennett.
I'm done.
No, he asked about the law.
I said, ma'am, we have not violated the 2010 Appropriations Act and the stipulations in that. I have not terminated any contracts nor directed people not to go forward with, to my knowledge.
Senator Bennett, I know you have many more questions. I must turn to other members. I want to ask the administrator and also invite my colleagues to submit other questions in writing, to leave them open for the record so that there be an extensive record of these deliberations, and proceed that way. Is that satisfactory?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, Madam Chairman. I very much appreciate your courtesy and apologize that letting my enthusiasm and desire to engage get hold of me.
We got a lot of people want to talk and ask questions. Let's turn to Senator